Here's what almost nobody explains. Falling isn't usually about being clumsy or unlucky. It's about 6 specific, fixable things going on in your body, and once you know them, you can work on every single one starting today. I'm Dr. James Carter, not going to hide behind a white coat and a fake title to tell you this. I'm a health researcher who's spent years digging through real published studies, the CDC's Steady Fall Prevention Research, work out of the National Institute on Aging, physical therapy journals, and pulling out what actually holds up. Every source I mention today is linked in the description so you can check it yourself. That matters to me, because so much of what gets said to seniors about falling is either scary and vague or confidently wrong. Before we get into it, tell me in the comments how old you are and one thing about your own balance or walking that's changed over the past few years. I read every comment on these videos, and honestly, the stories are what keep me making them. Quick reality check. Falls are the leading cause of injury for people over 65, and the CDC has reported that roughly 1 in 4 older adults falls each year, though most never mention it to their doctor. That second part is the real tragedy, because nearly all of what causes falls is trainable. Your nervous system, your muscles, even your eyes, they can all relearn skills at 70, 80, even 90. The one we're building to at number 1 surprised even me when I first read about it. It has almost nothing to do with your legs at all, and everything to do with your neck. Stick around, we'll get there. Let's start the countdown. Number 6, your feet themselves. Most people think of feet as just something they stand on dead weight at the end of the leg. But your feet are covered in pressure sensors that tell your brain, moment to moment, exactly how your weight is shifting. Podiatry and biomechanics research has shown that this sensitivity, what's called plantar sensation, declines steadily with age, partly from reduced circulation and partly from nerve changes, and that decline is one of the measurable predictors in fall risk screening tools like Steady. Think of your feet like the sensors on a self-parking car. When those sensors get foggy or worn out, the car doesn't know how close it is to the curb, and neither does your brain know how close you are to tipping. Why does this hit harder after 60? Nerve conduction, the speed at which signals travel from your feet to your brain, slows with age, and circulation to the extremities often decreases too, meaning less oxygen and nutrients reaching those nerve endings. It's not damage in a scary sense. It's more like a phone signal getting weaker the farther you are from the tower. The fix is refreshingly simple. Spend a few minutes a day walking barefoot on safe, varied surfaces, grass, sand, even a folded towel, because textured surfaces stimulate more of those foot receptors than smooth, flat floors ever will. Do this in the morning, when you're fresh and less fatigued, for 2 to 3 minutes. Pair it with gently rolling a tennis ball under each foot beforehand. It wakes up circulation and sensation right before you ask those nerves to do real work. Number 5, your hips, not your knees. Here's a dramatic one. Most people blame their knees for balance problems, but physical therapists will tell you the real story is happening at the hip. Research on gait and aging has consistently found that hip abductor strength, the muscles on the side of your hip that keep your pelvis level when you step, is one of the strongest predictors of fall risk in older adults. When those muscles weaken, your pelvis drops slightly with every step you take on that side, and over months, that tiny drop becomes a stumble waiting to happen. Think of your hip muscles like the outriggers on a fishing boat. They're not what makes the boat move forward, but without them, the whole thing tips wildly with every wave. Weak hip abductors are the same. Your legs still walk fine, but nothing's holding you steady side to side. This connects straight back to something researchers call anabolic resistance. After about 60, your muscles become less efficient at using protein to rebuild themselves. So the same workout that kept you strong at 40 does less at 70 unless you adjust for it. The hips are hit especially hard because we simply use them less dynamically as we age. Most daily movement is forward and back, not side to side. The fix: side-lying leg lifts or standing hip abductions holding a chair, 10 to 15 reps per side, 3 or 4 times a week. Morning or early afternoon tends to work best before fatigue sets in. Pair this with a short walk right afterward. Moving right after the exercise helps teach those muscles to fire during actual walking, not just during the exercise itself. Number 4. Your eyes are doing more work than you think. Here's something rarely mentioned. Your eyes aren't just for seeing the world, they're a core part of your balance system, working together with your inner ear and the sensors in your feet and legs. Vision science research has shown that visual contrast sensitivity, your ability to distinguish an object from its background, like a step edge from a shadowed floor, declines notably with age, even in people with otherwise normal eyesight on a standard chart. That's a huge, underappreciated point. You can pass your regular eye exam and still have significantly reduced ability to detect subtle changes in floor height or texture. Think of contrast sensitivity like the resolution on an old television. The overall picture might look fine, but fine detail, the exact edge of a stair, a slightly uneven sidewalk seam gets blurry first, long before anything looks obviously wrong. Why does aging hit this specifically? The lens of the eye yellows and stiffens over the decades, scattering light before it reaches the retina, and the retina itself processes visual information more slowly than it did decades earlier. None of this shows up as, "You need new glasses." It shows up as almost invisible risk. Practical fix: improve lighting in your home dramatically, especially on stairs and thresholds far brighter than feels necessary, because your aging eyes need more light to extract the same detail a younger eye would. Get eyes checked yearly for contrast sensitivity specifically, not just visual acuity. Ask your optometrist directly. Pair better lighting with removing floor clutter and rugs with edges, since poor contrast plus a loose edge is a near-perfect setup for a trip. Before we go to number 3, if this is helping you see your own walking differently, hit subscribe and tap the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need to hear it, and I'd rather spend my time researching than chasing the algorithm. Number 3, how you turn, not how you walk straight. This one is huge and almost never talked about. Most fall prevention advice focuses on walking in a straight line, but the CDC and multiple geriatric studies point to turning movements as disproportionately dangerous, with a notable share of falls happening specifically during a turn, not during straight-ahead walking. Turning demands your brain coordinate vision, balance, and stepping all at once faster than walking forward does. Think of a straight walk like driving down a highway, steady, predictable. A turn is like navigating a tight parking garage, sudden, multi-directional, unforgiving of small errors. For aging bodies specifically, this taxes what's called dual task capacity, your brain's ability to manage two things at once, like turning your body while also scanning for obstacles. Research on cognitive motor aging has found this dual task ability declines measurably over the decades, even in people with sharp memories, simply because processing speed slows. Here's a small story that sticks with me. A woman I'll call Eleanor, 74, from a small town outside Sacramento, told me she never fell walking down her hallway. It was always turning to reach the kitchen doorway that got her. Once she learned to physically turn her whole body, feet, hips, and shoulders together. Instead of twisting just at the waist, her near misses dropped to almost nothing within a couple of months. The fix? Practice deliberate, wide U-turns rather than pivoting on one foot, and physically step around rather than twisting the spine. Practice this slowly at first, ideally near a wall or counter for the first week. Pair this with the hip exercises from item 5. Strong hip abductors make wide turns dramatically more stable. Number 2. The surprise: no one expects your breath and your core. Here's the one that gets people, because it sounds unrelated to balance entirely. Your diaphragm and deep core muscles aren't just for breathing and stomach appearance, they form what researchers call your body's central stabilizing cylinder. Studies in older adults have linked reduced core and respiratory muscle strength to higher fall risk, largely because a weak cylinder means more compensatory wobble comes from your arms and upper body, which throws off your whole center of balance. Think of your core like the mast of a sailboat. If the mast is weak or wobbly, every gust of wind, every uneven sidewalk crack sends the whole boat rocking, even if the sails themselves are fine. Why this hits older adults specifically. After 70, respiratory muscle strength has been shown to decline meaningfully, partly from reduced elasticity in the chest wall and partly from general muscle loss, the same anabolic resistance we talked about with the hips, just showing up in the torso instead. I think of a man named Robert, 81, from a suburb outside Phoenix who told me he'd started holding his breath slightly whenever he felt unsteady, which ironically made his balance worse, because holding your breath stiffens the chest without stabilizing the core the way controlled breathing does. Once he learned simple diaphragmatic breathing exercises, paired with gentle seated core work, he reported feeling noticeably steadier within about 6 weeks. The fix: practice slow diaphragmatic breathing hand on your belly, breathing so the belly rises rather than the shoulders for 5 minutes daily, plus gentle seated marches or pelvic tilts to engage the deep core safely. Morning is ideal before the day's fatigue sets in. Pair this with the turning practice from item 3, a stable core makes wide, controlled turns far easier to execute. And now, number 1, the one I promised you at the start. It's your neck. Specifically, how much you turn your head while walking. Here's why this ranks above everything else. Your inner ear's vestibular system, the balance organ that tells your brain which way is up, relies partly on head position and movement to function properly. Research on aging and vestibular function has found that vestibular sensitivity declines significantly over the decades, and, critically, many older adults compensate by reducing head movement altogether, keeping their neck stiff and eyes fixed straight ahead while walking. That sounds like caution. It's actually the opposite of protective because a vestibular system that isn't regularly exercised through head movement gets weaker, not more reliable. Think of your vestibular system like a muscle rather than a fixed instrument. Muscles that aren't used atrophy, and this balance organ works the same way. The overly cautious, stiff-necked walk so many seniors adopt to be safe is quietly making their long-term balance worse. I met a man named Frank, 79, from a small coastal town in Oregon, who told me he'd stopped turning his head while walking years earlier after one scare, keeping his neck locked forward like he was afraid to look anywhere else. When he started doing gentle daily exercises, turning his head side to side while walking slowly in a hallway near a wall, he told me that within 2 months, he felt more confident walking in crowds and uneven terrain than he had in years, not because his legs changed, but because his brain relearned to trust his inner ear again. The fix: while holding onto a counter or wall for safety, walk slowly and gently, turn your head left and right, and up and down, a few times each direction, once daily. Start seated if standing feels too uncertain at first. Pair this with the visual contrast work from item 4. Good lighting means your eyes can support your vestibular system rather than fighting it during these head turns. So here's what I want you to walk away with, no pun intended. None of these 6 things are about being fragile or being careful or accepting decline as inevitable. Your feet, your hips, your eyes, your turns, your breath, your neck, every single one of them can be retrained at any age. Independence isn't something that quietly disappears after a certain birthday. It's something you actively maintain, one small daily practice at a time. I've seen people in their 80s walk with more confidence than people 20 years younger, simply because they understood which 6 things actually mattered. It is never too late to start, and the version of you 5 years from now will either thank you for starting today or wish you had. If this video helped you see your own walking in a new way, subscribe so you don't miss the next one and tell me in the comments, which of these 6 surprised you the most?